Howdy, everybody. Welcome to a live edition of Bean on the Scene. I am Alma Bean, and we got a lot to cover. So let's get right into it. And with this being a live edition of Bean on the Scene, feel free to tell me your thoughts or if there's something that you would like to talk about related to Utah sports. By all means, go ahead and chime in. We are live on YouTube. We are live on X. Just chime on in and we will talk all things Utah sports. But let's get down to some big business at the moment. Right now, we are all about March Madness. You got BYU, you have Utah State that will be representing the great state of Utah. BYU, they got the 6th seed, which they will face number 11 VCU on Thursday on TNT at 2:05 p.m. Mountain Time. And the winner of that game will face the winner of number 3 Wisconsin and number 14 Montana, which that game will be before the BYU game on TNT at 11:40 a.m. Mountain Time. Now, I personally believe that BYU will win that first round game against VCU. They are going to be a very difficult team to go up against, but it'll also really depend on how their pacing of their play is going to be, especially with how Richie Saunders has been on fire lately. I do believe that they'll probably get an 8 to 12 point win over VCU, but Wisconsin, I think that that's going to be a coin flip game, whether it is them actually getting the fast-paced play to work in BYU's favor, but Wisconsin is just a well-rounded team, whether you're looking at their starters, their depth, and just how well their ball movement is. BYU is going to need everything to go in their way in order for that game to go in BYU's favor. Now, for Utah State, they were given a 10 seed, where they will face number 7 UCLA on Thursday on TNT at 7:25 p.m. Mountain Time, where the winner of that game will face the winner of number 2 Tennessee and number 15 Wofford. That game will also be on TNT at 4:50 p.m. Mountain Time. Now, for Utah State, given their current slump, I don't think that this game is going to work out in their favor, even though with how UCLA likes to play, they are more of a slow-paced team. So I do think that Utah State, since they are more of an up-tempo team, they can definitely use that to their advantage. But UCLA just has some really great shooters, really great ball handlers as well. But it's going to be a really difficult game, in my opinion, for Utah State. And even if they do get the win against UCLA, I highly doubt Tennessee loses to Wofford. And Tennessee, it's hard to argue against an SEC team. So I don't think that there's going to be Utah representation in the NCAA tournament for long, but I do believe that they will make enough of a splash to catch some headlines. Now, for another team that is going to be in a major competition, we have Utah Valley. Even though they lost the WAC championship to Grand Canyon, the Wolverines have accepted an invite to the NIT tournament. Utah Valley, they will face San Francisco, who is the number 1 seed in that tournament, on Wednesday on ESPNU. I would love to see UVU upset a number 1 seed in San Francisco, but they've just been so dominant this season, and I expect them to continue that trend. The winner of that game, they will be facing the winner of San Jose State and Loyola Chicago on Saturday. Again, I would love to see UVU get that opportunity and beat San Francisco, but they're just such a dominant team, especially with the field that they are in. I just don't see it happening, unfortunately. Now, for a team that didn't make the NCAA tournament or the NIT, there is a new tournament this year that the University of Utah will be able to get their hands on and say that they are one of the first to be a part of this new tournament. And it is called the College Basketball Crown. This tournament will start on Monday, March 31st in Las Vegas, where Utah will be facing Butler on FS1 starting at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Now, all of these venues that will be a part of the Crown are all different casinos and courts that are in Las Vegas. I think it'll be a little interesting to see how this one plays out, because then you'll see more teams that are actually trying to fight later on in the season rather than knowing once they are out of the NCAA tournament, they just kind of give up. So I think that it is a move in the right direction, but also I can see the argument for why do we need participation trophies. So I think it'll be a great opportunity for Utah to show that they are a good team. They can keep up with some other at-large teams, but we'll just have to see how the crown plays out. Um, Now, speaking of Utah men's basketball, if you couldn't tell by my attire and this T-shirt, um, the Utah men's basketball team yesterday, they announced their new head coach for the 2025-26 season in Alex Jensen. If you don't know who Alex Jensen is, he played for Utah in the 1994-95 season before serving a 2-year mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, then returned from 1997 to 2000, where Jensen helped Utah go to their most recent Final Four appearance in 1998 alongside with people like Michael Doliak, Andre Miller, and Hano Matola. Jensen, he did go on to have a 7-year playing career in Europe before joining his former coach, Rick Majerus, at St. Louis University. After that, Jensen went on to work for the Canton Charge, which was the Cleveland Cavaliers D-League team, which is now known as the Cleveland Charge for the G League. Then went on to be an assistant coach for the Utah Jazz under Ty Corbin, then Quinn Snyder, and then 1 year under Will Hardy before his current position with Jason Kidd for the Dallas Mavericks. One thing that really stood out for me in that press conference was that Jensen seemed like he was all in on this organization. He was really looking forward to see how he can make an impact for the students that will be joining his team in the future and the guys that will be sticking around for next season. But he went ahead and answered a question about the future of the Utah program and what the fans should know going into that future, which was asked by Sammy Mora over at Ute Zone. And her question, again, was just, what should Utes fans know about this Utah program going forward? And he said that it's going to be a tough, hard-nosed, competitive team that will make this fan base proud. And for a running Utes team that hasn't really seen too much success for a decent amount of time, that is something, as a new coach, I think that that's something that a lot of fans can get behind and find truthful rather than, seeing it as words to get people going and move on. Now, for the Utah women's team, on the other hand, they did make the NCAA tournament. They were selected as a number 8 seed in the Regional 2 section in Birmingham, where they will take on the number 9 seed Indiana on Friday, March 21st at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time on ESPN2. Now, the winner of that game will be facing the winner of number 1 South Carolina and number 16 Tennessee Tech, which that game will be on ESPN at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And that game for the two winners will be on Sunday, March 23rd. Now, even though Utah is given the higher seed in their current bracket with the number 8 seed, I think if Utah does get the win against Indiana, which they have been playing great this season, it's really hard to bet against the South Carolina team where every single year you're betting for them to be a Final Four team. So Utah is going to need everything to go in their favor, especially with Gianna Neepkins. She needs to ball out if Utah is going to try and stay in this tournament. But they just were given a very hard road to the national championship. Now, moving on from college basketball to professional soccer with the MLS with Real Salt Lake. After a disappointing 3-1 loss to San Diego FC, RSL, they went on to face the Houston Dynamo FC. Before fans could be fully settled into their seats, Diogo Gonçalves scored a goal in the first minute to give RSL the 1-0 lead. Now, RSL had their high really early in this one, and that was brought down very quickly by Houston's Ezequiel Ponce in the 16th minute to tie it up 1-1. But as time was winding down in extra time, to be specific, it was 5 minutes into extra time, Diego Luna got the goal to put RSL up 2-1 going into halftime. And funny enough, that was the final goal that we saw from that game. So RSL got the 2-1 win. Now, for their upcoming games, their next game will be on Saturday, March 22nd versus FC Dallas at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Or you can join the likes of Jake Hatch, Spencer Warren, and Lauren Beck for pregame starting at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time on the KSL Sports Zone before David James and Jay Nolly get to their call for the gameplay itself. Now, for the women's team, the Utah Royals, they had their season opener at home on Saturday against Bay FC, where the looks were just great for them. There's a lot of promise for them going into this season, and one of those promising players is Bianca St. George, who got her first goal with the team and first goal of the season for the Utah Royals to give Utah the 1-0 lead in the 12th minute. And the game started getting a little bit chippy from that point on, with the likes of Rachel Kundananji was getting involved in what seemed like almost every altercation in the first half, which eventually led to a yellow card for her. But that was enough to fuel Kiki Pickett for Bay FC to get their first goal of the game to tie things up 1-1. And again, this game was just super chippy. Everyone was in their face. There was a lot of aggressive contact, in my opinion. And it led to a succession of yellow cards on both sides. For the Royals, it was St. George, Tejada, Rabano. For Bay FC, like I mentioned before, it was Kundananji, Pickett, and then Hill. But this game would end in a 1-1 draw. So the Royals would get 1 point on the season for their season opener. Now they look forward to their next game, which will be on Saturday, March 22nd at San Diego Wave FC at 8 p.m. Mountain Time, or you can tune in on the KSL Sports app, or 11:60 a.m., where you'll hear JP Chunga with the call, with the pregame starting at 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time. Now, with a team that isn't necessarily looking to win, but they're trying their best. On the record, trying their best. The Utah Jazz, since the last time we spoke, Adam Silver actually fined them for violating the player participation policy for not making Lauri Markkanen available when he was deemed healthy. The game that was mentioned specifically was against the Washington Wizards on March 5th. And I know what you're thinking. The Washington Wizards, aren't they trying to lose games too? Well, that's exactly why this sounds a little fishy, because the Washington Wizards actually won the game on March 5th. And, they're trying to get the best possible odds for the number one pick as well. So who else would try and complain about Lauri Markkanen not playing other than the team that wanted to lose? Now, Utah, they're currently on a 10-game losing streak, with their next game being at home against the Wizards. So the poop for coop chase is on in Utah, because they have a 1-game lead for the worst record in the NBA, just above the Washington Wizards. So, as I mentioned, their next game is going to be tomorrow, Wednesday, March 19th, at home versus the Washington Wizards. Then Friday, March 21st, at home against the Boston Celtics. And then Sunday, March 23rd, at home versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, outside of that Washington game, Boston, Cleveland, I expect them to go all out against Utah in the first half and then take it a little bit easy. So Utah shouldn't have a problem with trying to get losses to get the best possible odds. But I do expect Washington to try their best to out-tank Utah. But, we will see. I'm really curious to see how many players will be made available for that game. But the only thing that you won't see is Walker Kessler, who, if I read the injury report correctly, will be out for that game for rest after he decided that he was going to start pulling 3-point shots almost every other possession, and showing off his dribble moves, driving down to the paint, pointing out to the fans, letting them know what's up with his, I guess, talent. I didn't know that was in his bag, but my bad, Walker. But since it's something that he doesn't work on consistently, it's a good way to tank and still show the fans all your players. Now, for the Utah Hockey Club, this one might be a little rough, just because, it's fresh on our brains. And I really wish that there were some more positive things to talk about with this game. But right now, Utah is in the playoff hunt and will need every win that they can get, and need all the dominoes to fall correctly to get their chance at some playoff hockey in year one. Um, at the time of me doing this live, Utah did not do good. They ended up losing 7-1 to Edmonton, but you know it was just one of those games where nothing was going in Utah's favor. You you wanted to see them go all out, just sloppy puck control. Um, you you just really couldn't find something to gel very well with this team tonight. And with Krelvamelka, even though there were 3 goals that were put past him in the first period, I don't even know how much blame I want to put on him, uh, because it almost felt like he was left on an island majority of those goals that he was there for. And it was bad enough to where Vamelka was pulled in the second period, right at the start of the second period, that is, for Jackson Stauber. And I don't think that that was anything to do with his play. I think it was more of that's 11 straight games that Vamelka has played. And you got to give the guy some rest, especially if you are trying to make that push towards playoff hockey. You just have to do what you got to do going forward. So 7-1 loss, it hurts. If I'm not mistaken, it's the worst loss in Utah Hockey Club history. So it's gonna sting, but at this point of the season, you have to just put it past you, move on to the next one, and hope for the best. Thankfully, it wasn't a shutout, thanks to Sean Dersey, who got his second goal of the season. But again, that's really the only positive thing that you can look at from this Utah Hockey Club game. And it just gets worse from that point on. When you look at the other games that need to go in their favor, it just didn't. Um, the Calgary Flames, they got the 2-1 win today against the New York Rangers. Then you had St. Louis, they got their 4-1 win over Nashville. And if I'm not mistaken, this one just went final. My app is updating right now, but it looks like Vancouver just won 6-2 against Winnipeg. Of all things, none of the games that Utah needed to have go in their favor did. So now when you're looking at the standings, it's gonna hurt a little bit more. Plenty of salt in these wounds. But now Utah is still sitting at 71 points. Calgary's now at 73. St. Louis is at 75. And then since Vancouver has played one less game than St. Louis, and they also have 75 points, they are currently at the second wild card spot. Now, with how Minnesota has been playing as of late, there might be a chance that one of these teams, whether it's St. Louis, Calgary, Utah, Vancouver, might even be able to catch Minnesota, as they are at 81 points on the season. But 6 points is a long way to go, but so is 4 points. So when you look at Utah's schedule, you got to win some of these games to really make a push. And again, you just got to have all the dominoes fall in your favor. So, I mean, when you're looking at games like Buffalo, that's a game you have to win. Tampa, I anticipate that one to be a little difficult. Detroit, I expect that one to be a neck and neck game. Then facing Tampa on the road, difficult. Facing Florida on the road, difficult. Chicago on the road, that one, just because of the environment, I expected to be difficult. But I think Utah should be able to stay in that game. And then you just hit this stretch of Calgary, Los Angeles, Winnipeg, Seattle, Nashville at home, where Utah just hasn't been good. But these are all games where if Utah doesn't win in regulation, that could be a huge deciding point on whether or not Utah actually makes it into the playoffs. So it's going to be really hard. But, as fans, you're going to keep on cheering on your team. And, I mean, this is going to come all the way down to the end, especially with St. Louis being the final game of the season on April 15th. So got to keep your head up high and, keep on cheering for the clubbers to keep on doing their thing. But if you do want to, see Utah play against Tampa Bay, we got some tickets to give away. And those tickets are going to be for Saturday's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, which, for those of you that were unaware, that game will start at 3 p.m. Mountain Time. So doors will open at 1:30 p.m. Mountain. So if you want to get those tickets, you can comment below this video. I will also be clipping this onto TikTok with the same handle, AlmaBean23, and just put in the answer. Who got Utah's only goal against Edmonton tonight on March 18th? Who got that goal? Mention him by name. He's been out for a little while, but you should definitely know who that one is. And if you do, again, make the comment. Say exactly who it is. You'll be entered in for the giveaway for those tickets. So I will be selecting the winner for those tickets. I want to try and do Friday morning just to give some people some time to get those entries in. But, we want as many people in on this. And if you were unable to attend the game where Letters for Ingram took place, there will be an opportunity, as far as I'm aware, on Thursday night against the Buffalo Sabres to be able to, show your love and appreciation for how he has played, who he is as an individual, and, let him know exactly how you're feeling. And you got to give shout outs to anyone and everyone who's involved in this, whether it is the individual that did everything herself, Jackie, who is the Nacho Likes Puck handle on X, as we see from Utah Hockey Club. In the first intermission, you will be able to make your contributions in Portal AA, which is upstairs. And then during the second intermission, you'll be able to make your contributions down in Portal E, which is right outside of Costa Vida, where the original one took place. Again, I was a part of the first one, giving my words of encouragement, speaking to a handful of fans that had gone down there. And one of the biggest things that hit me when I was speaking to those fans is that I had a gentleman. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to catch his name, but he said that it's nice to see strangers care before it's too late. And that hit me a little differently than I thought it was going to, but it's a great quote. And it's a quote that I want to put out to the fans, that even though you may have bashed Ingram for his play, he's still an individual. He's still a person. He still has emotions. And those emotions can sometimes be a little too much to bear. So if you're able to make your contributions, whether it's get well, feel better, what have you, show your love and appreciation. And I'm sure that he will be more than thankful when he sees all of these words pouring down at him, and knowing that we'll have his back when he comes back, whenever that may be. So let's go ahead and check into the comments. Let's see what we are looking at, seeing if we got some answers. It looks like we got a couple. And so far, everyone watched the game, which, again, I'm sorry that you had to see that 7-1 loss, but, it happens. It's an 82-game season. Wish this loss would have happened a lot sooner in the season when we weren't trying to make a playoff push, but it happens. But overall, and again, giving credit where credit is due, for those of you who did watch the broadcast tonight on ESPN, granted, it's great that national media was bringing attention to the Letters for Ingram. Unfortunately, they did the disservice to the local media here in Utah, not giving credit to those like, not giving credit to those like Bell Frazier, and Cole Bagley, individuals that put a lot of time and effort into their work to be able to get the information on gatherings and games and such. They put their heart and soul into their articles, and unfortunately, they weren't given the credit that they deserve on national media. Um, but again, as an individual here in Utah, even though I am in that media space, uh, your work is phenomenal. I know the fans love and appreciate everything that you guys do, whether it is talking about the food on the road or giving the fans insight on every player, um, breaking down where they came from or their hobbies, or even, finding out who saran wrapped individuals' cars. The fans do appreciate it. They love everything you guys do. They support everything that you do. So I hope that the lack of credit on national media doesn't prevent you from putting out amazing content. Well, it looks like the comments have slowed down a tad bit on all sides. So this is where we are going to wrap things up. Again, I appreciate everyone who tuned in live. Again, if you want to get those tickets, or if you feel that there is someone that is deserving of those tickets to be put into this giveaway, show them this link. Shoot, even tell them what time to go ahead and fast forward so then they can have the opportunity to win those tickets. But if that is everything, again, I am Alma Bean with your Bean on the Scene, and y'all enjoy the rest of your day.